ADHD is more commonly overlooked in women, and more women are getting diagnosed later in life than men because ADHD presents itself very differently in women. But as I dig into this, I'm realizing that because I was so quiet in school, and I didn't want to be the center of attention at all. Like I would not speak in class. A lot of things were overlooked, so I learned from a very young age to mask a lot of things. But here are some things that I was struggling with that I started to dig in a little bit more. And just because you struggle with these things doesn't necessarily mean you have ADHD, so let me just preface it with that. But for starters, with work, I get very distracted. Like I had to set up a system for myself where my clients only talk to me in Slack, email, or phone call. Like I don't have them text me because I put my phone on do not disturb because my phone is highly distracting. I also, when I'm in a project, I have to turn off my notifications. Sometimes I leave my phone like outside the room, but I have to turn off my notifications and silence everything because I'll be working on a project and then I'll think about somebody else and I just directly go into their task and then like I'm all over the place. Also, it takes me more time to do tasks because I have realized that I would make silly mistakes on spelling and that sort of thing. So it takes me a lot of time to like cross-reference my work. But it's also very painful to cross-reference my work. In my personal life, I mean, work stuff is like I'm just highly distracted. But in my personal life, I get highly distracted in conversations when I'm supposed to be paying attention. Like my mind starts to wander. So my husband will be talking to me and I promise that I'm trying to listen and I don't retain everything that he says. Also, I have like an auditory processing. I don't have a disorder, but like I have a hard time processing things when it's like auditory. So I have to write things down to remember it. But my husband, like that's one of his chief complaints is that I don't listen to him, but I absolutely listen to him. I just don't remember everything that he's saying. Also, in a group setting, when I'm talking one-on-one to somebody else, but somebody next to me is talking like at a social gathering or party or a restaurant, whatever, I get very distracted and I listen to like multiple conversations at the same time. I thought it was always a superpower to know what's happening in different conversations. Like I can be understanding and still carry a conversation, but I'm actually not retaining everything that person is saying and I cannot help it. Aside from that, like my house is a disaster. Saturdays is like my day to clean, but I don't clean. Like I leave cabinets open, I leave drawers open. I have a pile of clothes in my dresser that just sits there for an entire week. These are all symptoms of ADHD. Not feeling motivated, procrastinating on things. With work, I procrastinate a lot when it comes to like my own, well, I own a business. So when it comes to like doing stuff for our business, like client stuff, like I have an immediate need, a motivation to get things done because it's for clients and they're paying us. But anything that happens, or things that I need to do internally to grow the business that I know I need to do, I put it off because it's like I don't want to do it. And I think one of the wild misconceptions with ADHD is that like we can't focus. We can focus on things that we're really, really interested in. In fact, we get really hyper focused on that, but other things that are not interesting, we get over things really interesting, or really fast, we get bored really easily. So for example, like books. I am embarrassed to say, but I have read very few books from cover to end just because I get over it. If I'm really, really interested in it, I can read it and I will obsess about it. I will read it. I will like binge read. Doesn't happen very often. But same thing with certain topics. So like with topics that we find really, really interesting, we can get hyper focused in it. So I realized I did that with infertility because I couldn't get pregnant. I was hyper focused on figuring out why I couldn't get pregnant, and it became an obsession, and it probably worked against me, to be honest. But I think all of this is like generally connected, my ADHD with infertility, with my sleeping issues. Also, I have sleeping issues. So I think a lot of people with ADHD have a lot of sleeping issues. But anyways, if you struggle with that stuff and you don't have an ADHD diagnosis, you might want to dig into other symptoms. There's so much more. You might want to dig into other symptoms because there's a ton of stuff. There's a lot of videos here on TikTok that talk about the symptoms of women with ADHD. But you might want to look into it. So anyways, all fascinating stuff, but I just got my ADHD medication and I'm going to start it today, and I'm kind of terrified, but I'm also really interested to see how it affects my day-to-day.